Hello and welcome, everyone. Welcome, one and all. Hopefully everything's working properly. How y'all doing? Welcome to the office hours. This is an just kind of a question-answer chill stream where we talk Star Citizen lore, we talk some Star Citizen updates, and we just hang out. Yeah, I hit the wrong button for those of you on Twitch. I meant to hit go live on YouTube because I usually give a little lead up for YouTube for Twitch, and it's just like, nope, Paul. You're an idiot. Welcome to the office hours. My name is Paul Berserker01 Batman Shelley, your humble host and space bartender at the Astropub, your facilitator on Captain's Table, and your professor on Galactic Historian. So, let's get started with some quick how to put this? Housekeeping, I guess. Some quick housekeeping. Number one is, I don't know why everything is really weird here. Let me see if I can't fix that issue with the... Just turn that off. No, it's still a problem. One second. That's a little better, I think. Something I did a Windows update and it screwed everything, so. That's better. Yeah, I fixed the white balance a little bit. Sorry, it's been a while, guys. Welcome to the Astropub. Some housekeeping, first of all. We are, of course, everything changes back to what it was when I just... Hold on. Sorry, I didn't realize this was going to be an issue when I came in. Whatever, we'll just work with it for now. I'll fix it later. Welcome everyone again. Thank you so much for the $10, man. Love the vids, man. Finally caught you live. Thank you, Quiver. Hopefully the music isn't too loud. Turn down a little bit. There we go. No problem, take your time. All right. We're all a little rusty. So, some quick housekeeping. It's been a while since... Well, no, I released Galactic Story last week. I've been meaning to do the Anvil Aerospace video for a while. It's taken a long time. And then this week I was going to set aside some time to do some other stuff, but life got in the way. Family stuff got obligations I had to do last weekend because my parents were coming in town for their once-a-year visit. And in the meantime, Cam was dealing with a very stressful test that she had to take, and I wanted to be there to make sure everything was to be available for those sorts of bitch sessions and be like, no, you're not stupid, you're gonna do fine. So as a result, I didn't have enough time to do what I wanted to do. I got the recording done for something, but I haven't gotten a chance to do everything else. So I apologize about that. That should be out next week. The other thing that I did this today, because of an issue we had, or because of this is part of the issue why I wasn't able to get everything done for this week, was that long-awaited Star Citizen lore podcast is is done. I've recorded episode 1 with Jail and Algorid. We talk about the UEE from the beginning of, or from the 21st century to the first jump point, right? So right before the first jump point, this kind of time period in human history. So we all did some research on our own topics. We came together and discussed it. And we came up with some very interesting threads that have been pulled through from the very beginning of the lore all the way to today. Some themes which have come up a lot in Star Citizen lore. So keep a lookout for that one. That's going to be a podcast, and it may be an audio-only version as well. But we'll see. Make sure the rest of the story was as nourishing. I'm glad you enjoyed it. You're all good. Glad everything's well. Yeah. Thank you for that $4 there, Sharp End Gaming. Hey, mate. How you doing, buddy? Ground control to Major Tom. Thank you, Quiver, and thank you, Sharp End Gaming, for those donations of $10 and $4 exclusively. So it seems like the UE takes a lot of influence from modern-day U.S., but we know. But do we know if individual nations disappeared in Star Citizen lore? How did the country go about deciding to coalesce into one unit? We talk a little bit about that. It has a lot to do with overpopulation. So the thing to understand about the Star Citizen lore is that overpopulation is a huge impact, is a huge issue in the universe of Star Citizen. Let's see if I can fix this a little bit more. It's bothering me. But overpopulation causes things like environmental pressures, which then cause conflicts, which then cause resource shortages and massive issues like humanitarian crises all over the planet. And that is one of the reasons why Mars was so interested. They pushed so hard for Mars to be colonized, is because of the need for... Keep fiddling with this, and I still see all the little flickers, and it's driving me mad. Give me 1 second. That's that side right there just kicking my ass. The reason for push for Mars has a lot to do with the situations on Earth. Earth is bad. It's really bad in the 21st and 22nd and 23rd centuries in the Star Citizen universe. And as a result, eventually Mars is colonized and terraformed not by one nation, but by a group of nations working together as a means of, hey, we all need to throw together or we all die separately. Which kind of sets the standard for colonization around the human space in the future. So we talk a little bit about that. We're a little bit more in depth. So, all right, did we just get a bunch of gifts and subs? Holy shit, Commissar! Commissar's like, I got them stimmies here. Thank you, Commissar. 25 gifted subs. You're a madman. Gifts from the Commissar. Pulling out that armory and giving us all relics of the ancients. Thank you, Commissar. What do I think of the new rep system? Mwah, mwah, mwah. Yes, more of it, please, CIG. We'll talk about that here in a bit, too. Some weird eye colors available in games suggest we cultivated specific genetic traits on purpose. Do we have lore about any genetic manipulation humans have undergone in the species? We've been able to genetically manipulate ourselves in the Star Citizen universe for quite a while, actually. To the point where genetic augmentation is very common. It's consumer grade. It's like getting a tattoo. It's not something you necessarily do on a whim, but it's something that can be done pretty easily for very inexpensive costs. Even cosmetic changes to our bodies are very easy. Genetic manipulation is pretty much guaranteed for every human who's born in the UAE. So. Let's go through some of the latest updates for Galactopedia, shall we? I always love doing this just because, and I'm going to focus mostly on the Xi'an stuff. Though we'll talk a little bit about the Vanduul as well. Let's start off with the X's here. All right, let's go with. So we could have genetic perfection in the sense that we have no genetic flaws that will cause harm to humans in the future. That doesn't necessarily preclude it. I think cancer is still a thing, for instance. It's just very difficult, and you have to live in some very extreme conditions. The average human lifespan in the Star Citizen universe is between 150 and 180 years old. So, in terms of like the average extended lifespan, I think this average human lifespan is 150, but the oldest human can live into their 180s because of all of this genetic augmentation. All right, let's choose the Xian government first. Do most star systems in Sol's neighborhood have jump points, or are they rare? I mean, we don't know of any system that... I mean, we know of plenty of systems that don't have jump points, but every system in the universe that we can visit has a jump point. They seem to be rare, but not uncommon. More uncommon rather than rare, I should say. They show up fairly frequently, but we don't know how they're formed or how they collapse, because they do collapse. And we don't know how often they last. We don't know how to create them, anything else like that. Yeah, people can change their appearances in the Star Citizen universe on a whim. You want to have purple eye, you want to have red eyes and like translucent hair. Sure. Go nuts. So that's one of the realities of like why people are like, oh, my immersion, I don't like all these crazy hair colors and eye colors. It's like, A, we can do that right now, and B, in this universe, I wouldn't put it past people to have like translucent skin or multicolored like rotational like bioluminescent hair if they could. Can they change their nature? Yes. Everyone can change their nature. All right, so let's take a look at the Xian government. A lot of this stuff is not new. A lot of it's old, but it's been coalesced together. So the Xian government is an absolute monarchy headed by an emperor that is supported by the High Council of 3 advisors. The advisors are responsible for maintaining Xian Service, each branch of which is overseen by another council of 3. Below the family of the emperor are the houses, state corporations run and made up by a vast interconnected families. Each house oversees a single aspect of society or production, approved or directed by the emperor. The current emperor, the last heir of the House Krei, has reigned since 2643. So, the Xian government is an absolute monarchy. However, it has a council of advisors, and then each of those councils of advisors has a council of advisors. The Xian government is made up of multiple families. These families are called houses. These houses are all focused on one aspect of production, or some aspect of Xian life in total. For instance, Apoa is the company that makes the Nox and the Korthol, and I believe even the Santokyai. These ships are all made by the same company, which is Apoa. But Apoa is simply the name of the company, but it literally just means House Poa. So House Poa makes makes these ships, the light ships for the Xi'an Empire. So when you have relations between like Apoa and Misk, what you're seeing is one corporation reaching out to the next. But that corporation, Apoa, they make all light fighters, all light craft in the Xi'an Empire. Every single one. They're actually the ones who invented the thruster technology that is used to allow for them to move in multiple different directions and stuff like that. The crazy thruster technology that the Xi'an have was an invention by Apoa, which is one of the reasons why I got it. So. That does sound okay. That does not sound okay. It probably isn't. Oh god, it's going to be the Hunger Games capital over again. You know it. I want my hair to be rave at all times. Set hair to maximum rave. And the current emperor of the House Krei Emperor Krei has reigned since 2643. Remember, the Xi'an have an extended lifespan compared to humans, which can live at probably maximum around 200 years. Xi'an can live possibly up to 1,000 years. So. All right. So, this is something that I discovered when I was doing research for this episode, which I thought is kind of weird and kind of interesting. I mean, CIG is definitely wearing their influences on their sleeve with this one. But Xi'an have criminal professionals. These are professional criminals who have a license from the government to be criminals. They have a license to break the law. So the Nayuna, I'm going to screw up the names, and Jail's going to sit here and be like, Paul, learn the languages. My Banu's terrible. My Xi'an's terrible. My Vanduul's probably passable, because I'm sure it's just... But, that's just me. Not like a privateer. People kept saying, I tweeted about this, and people were like, a privateer? No. It would be like a privateer if the privateer's job was to attack pirates, but also could attack their own ports. It'd be like if you hired a privateer and they just turned around and shot you in the face because they could, legally, and get away with it. That's essentially what it is. So, these criminals practice very specific forms of crime. They're similar to human crime syndicates. These Xi'an houses, so they work like houses, double as disciplined organizations whose businesses involve criminal activity. In return for sanction from the imperial house, these houses sometimes act as police forces for their locations, curtailing the activity of potentially dangerous criminals from non-crime houses, and keeping crime at levels considered acceptable by the Xian government. Many Xi'an will pay regular protection fees to criminal houses in advance to limit the extent of their losses if they become victims of crime themselves. So, in this situation, you have a group of Xi'an houses whose job is to crime. Now, I'm assuming they are things like illicit drugs, prostitution, gambling, these sorts of typical, syndicate-style, money-making criminal activities that usually don't involve a lot of violence, but can. And by becoming a legal house that involves crime, they are able to do crime, which is weird because at that point, isn't it not crime if it's legally sanctioned? But they're also able to rough up other houses or intercede on other houses if they want to. And in return, their job is to prevent criminal activities from non-crime houses. So say Apoa is running a secret gambling den as part of their business operation. Well, let's just say House Bob, because I love using Bob as a reference. House Bob, Baba, comes in and says, I'm sorry, Apoa, you're not supposed to do this. This is a raid. Congratulations. You're now all under Xi'an arrest. We're going to kill you all as an example. So they kind of function as a criminal police organization where they commit crimes, but they're mostly there to regulate other crimes from happening. So there's a certain level of criminal activity they're allowed to engage in. They're not allowed to engage any further. Otherwise, they get in trouble with the Emperor. And the Emperor has a vast army that they can control. So you don't want to do that. But you also get to essentially beat up, rough up, and police all of the other houses. So might as well be organized, yeah. Government-sanctioned mafia. Basically, yeah. After military service, do the Xi'an go back to their original families, or do they get recruited into different ones? We don't know, but I'm assuming they go back to their original families. They give up their house name. They give up their houses when they join the military, but every single Xi'an has to join the military. And once they leave the military service, and I think the military service is something like 50 years of their life. I mean, they live 1,000 years, so 50 years isn't that much, but you know, especially early on, it's like between 25 and 70 is the typical Xi'an. I think it's mentioned in one of these articles, so we'll talk about it there. But yeah, I assume they go back to their original houses. All right, so Xi'an terraforming. Here's the thing that's interesting about Xi'an terraforming. So, Xi'an terraforming practice is unique among known sentient civilizations. Rather than only creating a biome to sustain life, Xi'an terraform planets to fit functions seen as necessary to the well-being of Xi'an society. Some functions include manufacturing, nature preservation, and religious centers. Xi'an discovered terraforming roughly 6,000 years before the beginning of the First Imperial Age, or about 25,400 BCE. When a series of volcano eruptions forced the then divided houses to pool their resources and push back against the rapid cooling of their home planet. Early geohacking machines, the precursor to platform-based terraformers, stopped the catastrophic global cooling cascade before it could end all life on the planet. Today, the Xi'an use Thusung, I gotta say it, system as a testbed for advanced terraforming technology. And he says down here, geohacking is a colloquialism that refers to a practice of altering an environment of an already habitable planet. Geohacking is different from terraforming in that it is done upon planets and moons that have already established atmosphere and environments. It can also be referred to modifications done by smaller scale, primarily used to alter weather systems. So, here's the thing. That same technology that was developed by the houses before the First Imperial Age, when the houses were all fighting amongst each other, was then used by those houses to kill another house, the leader of another house, and they fucked up. They fucked up bad. And as a result, it caused runaway fires, which made the Xi'an homeworld uninhabitable. So because of terraforming failures, caused the end of the Xi'an homeworld and the formation of the First Imperial Dynasty, which basically formed as a way of saying, we all have to pull together and get the fuck out of here. So come follow me or die kind of situation. So the houses rallied behind one leader and they left their homeworld, and they've abandoned it ever since. It's not even in the Xi'an Empire anymore. And this was also before the Xi'an actually had a jump point technology, as far as we know. So the important thing to pull from this is twofold. The Xi'an houses are individual corporations, but they've been interconnected. They've been on their own for a long time. Xi'an society has always been self-reliant. It's always been self-encapsulated, even with these kind of crime houses. The idea being that each house is vying for power, but they want to do so in a way that doesn't disturb the overall tranquility of the system they've created. So thus you have crime which is literally organized and sanctioned. Because if you don't organize it and sanction and regulate it, then someone else could commit crime. And if they commit crime, it could be disturbing the natural balance. And that's bad. So the Xi'an are obsessed with order. With maintaining a outward appearance. But they're constantly trying to stab each other in the back and step over one another to gain power, because they've always done so. The second that the Xi'an Emperor dies, is the Xi'an Empire will descend into utter catastrophic civil war. We know this because it's happened before. So we have this dual nature of order and of secret, like, hatred between each other. But together they're strong, and so they know that, and they know that having their emperor alive is important. So having an emperor is vitally important, and the key is that if they could perhaps put one of their family members in the head of the emperor, why not? Now we have all the power, is the kind of mentality, but they're still very. They're not so ambitious that they're willing to kill one another. So, secret pirate police SS. It's not kind of yet. LAPD. Yeah. Not bees though. Bees are tough. Yeah. I came to meme, Paul. You can't stop me. Oh, you can meme. Meme all you want. All right. Xi'an clothing. So out of that concept, let's look at the Xi'an clothing. Xi'an clothing typically is made up of long-lasting materials. This is passed down the family line for use of younger generations. Even mass-produced clothing is made to last for centuries. Wealthier houses possess custom livery worn only by members of the family. However, in those Xi'an youth counterculture movement have embraced a human-inspired trend of disposable garments. The Xi'an clothing industry is managed by House Tuel and its satellite houses. Let me see if I can find some good evidence, some good examples of Xi'an clothing. There's been some good, decent, there's some decent concept art which kind of tackles some of this more recent art too. So you can see the type of art that they do, the kind of clothing style they have. Let's pull out another one that's decent. This kind of unique art style. So this is clothing that kind of lasts for generations. Turtle power, yeah. All right. So, counterculture. Wearing clothes that are throwawayable. Youth counterculture is a movement made up of young Xi'an, mostly those who have not yet completed their compulsory time with the Xian Service, which we can pull up here. From age 40 to 70. The backbone of the reigning imperial house, okay, who experiment with practices not traditional to Xi'an society. Human culture is particularly appealing to Xi'an youth. The main center of counterculture movement is located in the former Perry Line system of Kuyoka on the Peyuna shipping hub, thanks to its high levels of interspecies trade. Let's take a look at the service real quickly so I can show you what I mean. So, the Xian Service or imperial bureaucracy is a bureaucratic military body made up of Xi'an, aged 40 to 70, the backbone of the reigning imperial house. The service is compulsory for all Xi'an. It was created in the wake of the Xi'an Civil War from 20,000 BC to 19,000 BCE. As mentioned, as a method to install an overarching loyalty to the imperial house and the Xi'an people rather than individuals individual Xi'an personal houses of origin. While most return to their own houses after the service period ends, some elect to stay in the service permanently. So essentially, when you leave the service, you go back to your house, or you stay. You're a lifer. You're a career. You stay your career in the military, serving the emperor. So as I said earlier, the key is that you give up your family name. It would be like, I'm Paul Shelley. If I joined the Xian service, when I joined the Xian service, I was a Xian, I would become Paul Cray, because I would take the name of the house of the emperor. And if I wanted to stay in the service for life, I would forever be known as Paul Cray. So. Salty Mike. Did I make this up, or was it Salty Mike? What do you mean? It's on the screen. Mike is good. Cowabunga Space Turtle. Oh, I got his fourth 25 hit here, and I finally caught him live. Welcome. Are the genetic markers becoming more common since the current Xian leader has been seated? Or specifically, is there an heir apparent? There is no heir apparent to the current Xian emperor, which means, and because the Xian emperor requires very specific genetic markings, it's likely that when Emperor Cray dies, and he is getting old, that there will be another Xian Civil War. Xian Civil War 2 Electric Boogaloo. This time with 100% more human meddling. Because, I mean, that'd be cool as fuck. Being able to serve in the Xian Civil War, serving for some of the houses as a player. Mwah. Hey, Fulgrim. Someone got to make this up. Yeah, the person who made this up is the lore team. Don't look, Tavarans. Xian turtles are temporary, but Rishora is forever. is eternal. Shirley, my man crush. Hey, Pickle Skin. Thank you for that 8 months of support. All right. Hey, Fizzle Fuse, how you doing, buddy? A Moab with his name on it. I mean, help Apoa gain power in exchange for more ships. Yeah. All right, let's take a look at some of the other stuff. We already talked about most of this kind of stuff. Xeno threat. Let's look at the Vanduul clans. Oh, let's look at this is a lot of cool stuff here. Like the Hades extinction event. And Korthol. All right, Hades extinction event. The Hadesian extinction event marks the earliest known inhabitants of the Hades system disappeared. Current research estimates that the extinction event occurred roughly 300,000 BCE, but ongoing study of the archaeological record of the lost civilization continues to refine science's understanding of what happened. There are multiple theories on what specifically caused the extinction event. One of the more widely accepted hypotheses is that the Hadesians were wiped out in a devastating interplanetary war. Detractors point out the lack of evidence for technology that could have caused destruction on such a large scale. All right, let's talk about the Vanduul clans. So the Vanduul clans are groups of Vanduul who have banded together to form a singly mutual beneficial unit, typically with a capital class vessel such as the UEE designed kingship serving as their base of operations. So it doesn't have to be a kingship, but it can be, but there's usually a single ship in the leader of the fleet, which is the clan. They're all mobile. Although observers have not yet fully defined the leadership structure, it is believed that the clans operate as a martial meritocracy that shares some similarities with a military unit. The primary goal for most clans encountered in human-settled space seems to be the collection of resources through raids on settlements and other clans. All clans can be identified through a unique insignia displayed on their vehicles, and an armor commonly known as a clan mark. This is humans' terminology. All right, the Vanduul raids are attacks coordinated by the apparent purpose of harvesting or capturing resources. Raids vary in size. Most are made up of a few Vanduul and employ quick hit-and-run tactics. Larger raids can sometimes include the deployment of harvesters, large vehicles used to pull resources from surface of planets and moons. Frequently, Vanduul raids in a planetary system are sometimes precursors to an invasion. Known Vanduul territory consists of 16 planetary systems with a jump point connections to multiple points in the UEE. The Caliban, Orion, Tiber, and Virgil systems were formerly controlled by the UEE, but were lost to the Vanduul after massed invasions. No permanent Vanduul settlements have been observed on any planet in Vanduul territory. It is theorized that the Vanduul use celestial bodies purely for resource gathering. Newly discovered systems that have significant Vanduul presence are given the military designation VS, and a code name starting with the letter V, such as the Vanguard system and the Voodoo system. So, these are the Vanduul systems here. So, it's important to remember that though the Vanduul control areas of former UEE that were formerly UEE, it doesn't mean that they are the only species there. There are humans who live in Vanduul space. Not in Orion. Nothing lives on Orion. Not even amoebas. We have permanently glassed those planets to their cores. Orion is also known as the Grinder by the UEE Navy, because they send ships there to be ground up by the Vanduul. And the UEE has carpet bombed every planet in the Orion system with antimatter weaponry to try to prevent the Vanduul from getting any resources from those planets. So the Vanduul that are there are still there trying to eke out a living, and then every so often a human fleet will show up and tangle with them and probably limp back to Vega. But yeah, the Grinder ain't no joke. Hey, Flawbot, how you doing, buddy? I wonder how CIG will implement the org system in the lore. Lore team equals Salty Mike in the pub. Yeah, that's pretty much it. What about server meshing? We'll talk about that here in a bit there, Don. We started off with the lore and stuff like that, but we'll talk about it. There's been some new updates about it. Is assassination okayed as a sanctioned crime, or that could be problematic? I think it depends, but probably problematic. The Krithok got the Hadesians. Boom. Yeah, maybe. All right, let's look at Ward Korthol. Korthol was a Tevaran warlord who led an armed insurgency against the UEE during the Second Tevaran War, 2603 to 2610. A brilliant and charismatic leader, he unified many Tevaran that had been scattered in the First Tevaran War in order to reclaim their homeworld of Kalith, Jalan, or Elysium IV. From the UEE, Korthol utilized guerrilla tactics to quietly move through systems and attack where the UEE military wasn't. This approach proved to be devastating against the UEE, who struggled to anticipate Korthol would attack next. However, as the war raged on, the Tevaran forces fell in number and could not be replenished. When it became clear after the Battle of Centauri that Tevaran would once again lose against humanity, Korthol and his fleet engaged in a final push towards Kalith, where they lowered the ship's shielding and burned up in the atmosphere. They'd rather die than live under humans. This is the last little bit, and we'll talk a little bit about the latest updates for server meshing. Yeah, you just missed it there, Trekon. Thank you, Snark, for that 41 months, my man. I found it really irresponsible that the UE carpet bombed the planet. Innocent beings and creatures killed or wiped out. Yeah, it's not really... It was... I mean, the thing was that UE figured that they either carpet bombed the planet or they let the Vanduul do the same. Because the Vanduul... To understand how the Vanduul work... They move from planet to planet, and they strip everything. They will consume any biomatter that exists. Anything that can be used as a resource will be gathered and melted down into a resource. There is nothing of substance on almost any planet the Vanduul go through. So it was a kind of situation of you either let the Vanduul just devastate the planet, or you devastate the planet before the Vanduul can consume it. Can you get the cliff notes? The very basic version of what we talked about with the Xi'an is there's new versions of terraforming they kind of expanded on for the Xi'an. Mostly just kind of discussions on Xi'an counterculture and its influence by humans. Xi'an culture in terms of clothing and how their clothing is made to last multiple generations, so like 2,000 years. The Xian government is made up of the emperor, 3 advisors, and each of those advisors have 3 advisors, and each of those advisors deal with one aspect of government. And then you have the Xian Service, which is every Xian between the age of 40 and 70 must go into the Xian Service from 40 to 70, so I think it's 30 years, to serve under the emperor. Some of them stay longer. So, and then we talked a little bit about the Vanduul and some of the other stuff as well that we hear. Is Tavaran going to be in game? I heard they're extinct. No, Tavaran aren't extinct. The Hadesians are extinct. The Tavaran just don't have any homeworld anymore. Thank you for that Prime sub there for 2 months. I just want to learn and I want to grow. I want to consume as much information as possible. Ooh, he's there, fresh tasty. Sound like a Vanduul. All right. If the Vanduul don't live on planets, then where do they live? Or on their ships? Yes. Vanduul live in a central ship. The largest clans have something called the King ship, which is this massive capital ship, which is like 3 times the size of a Bengal. They also have other ships they live on, but that's usually the central hub. Smaller clans will have destroyers or cruisers or battleships, which they live on. Their whole families and extended families. We don't even know if like the Vanduul have women or men. We don't know if they have genders or sexes. They could just produce out of amniotic sacs. We don't know. All we know is that the Vanduul are based around constant warfare and martial meritocracy, and they live out of their ships. 40-year is old as fuck. The danger hobo. The Xi'an live to 1,000 years old. They live a century. So 40 to 70 is not that old, actually. It's pretty young when you live 1,000 years. Yeah, they're space nomads. If the Vanduul are the same arena commander, then just send me and I can defeat all of them. The Vanduul you fight in Arena Commander are all fighter Vanduul. The Vanduul have everything from fighters to bombers to capital ships. We just haven't seen the capital ships yet. Vanduul ships stand no chance against the UE Navy. I mean, they kind of have for a long time, but... all right, so we'll this is the last one. We'll talk about. No, none of my students watch my content or play Star Steel. Citizen that I know of. The 3K one, Kilometer one, yeah. No, the Banu are not the turtle people. That's the Xi'an. The Banu are I Am Groot. Worldmaker was a human terraforming company founded in the mid-22nd century during the first terraforming boom. The company initially focused on perfecting terraforming technologies and ultimately engaged in large-scale planetary development. By the start of the 25th century, Worldmaker had acquired much of its own competition and had become the 3rd largest terraforming conglomerate in the UNE. In 2480, Shubin Interstellar acquired the controlling interest in the Worldmaker until they eventually merged into the company itself. So, pretty cool. This is probably some of the earlier stuff in terms of a lore about human history. Any leaks on Vanduul commercial or supply ships? Will players be able to prosecute asymmetrical warfare against them? Yes, they do have. They do have. They do have supply ships. It's like froze right there. Okay. They need to add some more reasonable-sized bomber ships to Arena Commander in the late waves for more challenges. They need to do a complete bottom-up rework or top-down rework. Working from the very basics. They need to completely strip Arena Commander and Star Marine all the way down to brass tacks and completely start over again with a more coherent system rather than just trying to build something from over on top of other things. So I don't think we've seen a supply ship, just military and planet eaters. Yeah, I think they exist though. I think the Xi'an, the Vanduul have cargo ships. I wouldn't be surprised if they do. There's a lot that needs to be fixed. Yeah, there's a lot of problems with it. Hey, Devil Dog Hog, how you doing, buddy? Happy Thursday to you too, Ashhole. Thanks for the 14 months. Hey, Starkiller. We've seen the Driller, which is one of their smaller capital ships, which is bigger than a Bengal. I don't know if the big Driller's bigger than a Bengal, but it's up there. All right, so let me see if I can't find the statement made by... let's go to the dev tracker. That'll probably help a little bit. All right, here's some discussions from March 16th. Okay, so here's some comments. I'll pull this on the dev tracker so you can see a little bit better. We also do this. See if there's more from Clive Johnson. There's not. Okay. So Clive Johnson did some recent discussions on server meshing. So Clive Johnson is saying, number 2, production phase. What stage is mushrooms? Research phase or production phase? And he says it's definitely production phase. We spent a lot of time and effort planning out server meshing until we were confident we had addressed all major risks and unknowns for the first version. This roadmap includes several integrations of our code back to the development mainline, so our changes will be tested as many as our fellow developers are, so as soon as possible, and get included in the following quarterly releases. Some of these integrations only affect things beneath the surface and haven't or won't have any noticeable impact on players' experience, the game, or whole as performance. From the outside, it may sometimes look like not much progress is being made. The plans for server meshing beyond this first version are still in research phase. We have some pretty clear ideas of what we want to do and how, and we'll continue to flesh out these ideas towards the first version. However, these plans can't be finalized until the first version is in your hands and working well enough for us to see the problems with it are. Building incrementally like this allows us to be sure of our footing along the way and address unforeseen issues as they arise. Someone else said, thanks for confirming that. I've noticed CIG haven't really talked in detail about their implementation of server meshing. Is it due to proprietary reasons? Also, the first release of server meshing included moving ship to one ship to another. So I'm not sure the idea might talk about the details when it comes out in a more official way than me spilling the beans on Spectrum. And yes, the first version will include ships being able to move from one server to another in some capacity. And then, thanks for the info. To clarify, you're saying that the first version of server meshing won't really change how players see the game, i.e. no dramatic changes like incursions or inclusion of instancing. Secondly, will this first version be the next quarter release, or is that the production is roadmapped and once complete, it'll be added to the subsequent quarter releases? I meant that some of the steps along the way may not seem like to change anything. Hopefully, you will notice it when the first version of server meshing itself arrives. The production is roadmapped, and only once the first version is complete will it be added to the subsequent quarter releases. This won't be next quarter release. So, here's a couple of big ones. First of all, the work is mostly behind the scenes for server meshing. And as they are adding this stuff in behind the scenes, you won't notice the changes. You will notice the changes when the first version is released, but it has to take some time. And once plans for server version beyond the first version are still in the research phase, so they haven't really gotten past that first initial version. So will it be next quarterly phase? I think the fact that Clive Johnson is willing to talk about it seems to say that it's probably at least planned for sooner rather than later. Again, CIG timelines need to be understood. CIG, to Clive Johnson, soon could be next year. We interpret soon in our own ways. We think soon is next quarter or the quarter after next or the end of the year. But not all of CIG necessarily works that way. They work iteratively and build on top of one another. So each phase is in itself a slow accumulation of things over time. And you can see this with mining. Mining was very janky and weird in its first implementation. Now it is the best way of making money and is probably the most fleshed out version of the game we have. And it only took like 3 years. Now, that seems like, oh, that's such a long time. Is every game system going to take 3 years? No, because they learned things along the way when developing mining to help speed up the process for other game systems. Similar to how it took them, 4 years to build all of Stanton, but it'll probably take them a year or a couple of months to build Pyro and less than that to build the next system, because they're developing the tools that they need to figure out what they need to do next. What works, what doesn't, how can we change these things up? That's how this works. And so that's essentially what he's saying, is that the first version may not be necessarily soon, probably sooner than you think, or sooner than not sooner than you think, probably sooner than your most pessimistic concepts are, don't expect it to be absolutely wonderful, the first version, but after that first version, they'll look at what they need to do and change it as it needs to be. So, Clive Johnson is Xi'an, is what you're saying? Yes. Clive Johnson is Xi'an. The 30k areas are related to this. To a degree. The 30k areas are related to two things. One is the server meshing issues, and the other thing is iCache, or persistent streaming. The ability to have all this information. There you go. That's the link to the latest information on that. Here's what it sounds like. Static server meshing version 1 seems like quarter 4, as it sounds like Clive wants the first version out so they can test it and then do more complex version, dynamic server meshing. Downstream teams finish meshing work quarter 3 on Progress Tracker, so it could potentially mean that internal testing and Evo testing near December is a maybe possibility, but not a definitely. Especially anything after September is going to be isn't to be up in the air, because CIG has a deadline. Unlike this current patch, which was supposed to release essentially, if you go by their typical expectations, it was supposed to release next week, but it's going to take longer. That always happens with these patches. But the last patch of the year is always got a time limit on it. It is always like it always has a date that it needs to get by, because they need to release the patch before they go on break. And I can tell you exactly when the last quarter patch is going to come out. And I can tell you this with confidence. And I can tell you that it's going to be within a week or so of this date. It will be between the 19th of December, the 17th and 19th of December. Let's just give it a little bit more working room. Between December 17th and December 20th will be when the last patch releases, because I'm psychic. Also, because that's the week before Christmas. And CIG always gives their employees the week of Christmas off, the week after Christmas off, and the first week of January off. They usually get 3 weeks break between at the end of the year. So, and the problem with those hard dates is that you can't fudge it like you can with the other quarters throughout the year. As a result, you're going to have more things just dropping off the end of that last patch. Is it safe for work?
Gameplay, I worry that will happen. That is actually when I leave this game, I think, and probably start dialing down the streams and focusing more on a real life job. For me, that is my stopping point. Is if we see iCache server meshing come in, and they come up with some new tech that needs to be done, then that's when I leave.
I don't know. I mean, I agree with that. It's a little different. That's Mike's own personal thing. I have never heard anything, some new thing. Now, do I think there's going to be new things that come down the pipe? For sure. But if it's new things come down the pipe before they can actually expand the game, yeah, I understand Mike's content. That's different. Yeah. I think the context is pretty clear, is that, and I think this is the same thing that a lot of people have, is that if CIG keeps leading you by the nose and not telling you what exactly needs to happen, because they do this often, because every single year it's, oh, we just need this tech. We just need this tech. It just needs every major tech hurdle they reach. They go, oh, we need another one. And I think the last time we had this discussion was 2018 when they sat down and said, we need these things done before we can release the game. And the last major pillar was server meshing. So if we get to the point of server meshing and then CIG goes, oh, now we need widget expansion to be able to release more than 40 players and do more than one server, then yeah, I think a lot of people, probably even myself included, will probably go, all right, bye-bye. We're going to go find something else to do. Because we like the game, but after a certain point, it just starts looking like, you're making up excuses to keep the money flight train going. I don't think that's going to be the case because CIG, it's not like CIG's invented these terms. These ideas of like this, the roadmap of what they needed to do has been the same since 2012. They've pretty much had a good, solid, straight idea of what they need to go to. It's just taken a long time. Would I declare server meshing in that case? What do you mean declare server meshing in that case? I don't know what you're talking about. Do I feel that ISC messed up the SDF Shields announcement? No. Is it supposed to be coming out? If that's what they're going to say, then why do you care, Mad? I'm worried that they will put too many features in server mesh and can't fix it. I don't know what you're talking about that. Just always say that server meshing is later. Again, I don't know what you mean. Like, I have no context for what you're saying. Oh, server meshing is coming later? I mean, I don't know, man. Pyro has been in development for a year and 3 months. It will take another 9 months at least. The planets themselves have been done for a while now. Planets themselves are quick, but not landing zones. Yeah, but Pyro has also been in iterative development for a little while. The biggest thing with Pyro is not necessarily the landing zone, though it could be. The big thing for Pyro seems to be server meshing. And there could also be issues with, for instance, you don't want to develop assets for the game before you have a full understanding of what server meshing is going to do to it or how you can implement it properly. But yeah. They did say that the new shield tech would fix holes in some ships. I can't wait to unleash the super Ghost Hornet. Just always say server meshing is later on the horizon. Can you reform that a little bit? Are you saying that I'm going to say that? Are you saying that CIG always says it's on the horizon? Because CIG has always said that that's the plan long term. Thank you, Madeline. But it's taking forever. I mean, lots of games take forever these days. It's not unheard of for games to take this long, especially depending on when you consider development start and such. Plenty of games have taken 10, 15 years to develop. It's just the nature of games in the last 10 years has been they take a long time. Especially when you're building things from a brand new ground up major changes and or complete rework or complete change of something else. I'm worried that CIG will put too many features and frame rate, server tick rate, ships targeting, jumpy after server meshing, and they can't fix it. We'll see that. What would your alternative game to jump to? I don't know yet, man. I don't, like we're already talking. You guys are already talking like, oh, we're going to abandon Star Citizen. I'm not abandoning Star Citizen. I'm not gonna just jump ship because some people are nervous about it in a time when everyone is angry at Star Citizen or nervous about it. It's getting started now, but by May, you're going to see 15 articles a week talking about how Star Citizen has made $40,000 million bajillion dollars and you can't even boot up the game or whatever. Like, there's always these articles around this time, so. They futz around too much? I don't know. I might stop doing content creation as a whole. I enjoy doing it, but there's not really a lot of games that I have as much investment in as Star Citizen. Next hot game. There we go. It's fun watching people with torches and pitchforks saying the negative stuff of the CG. It's usually. Exactly. I don't think CIG are dragging their feet, but I do think that there's a chance that there are more issues that will pop up after implementation of server meshing and iCache. They may think that more tech is needed after that. I think the likelihood of them requiring more tech after server meshing is 100%. The issue is, for me, is not do they need to develop more tech after server meshing? It's more, do they need to develop more tech to get the game in a functional, basic state after server meshing? If you have server meshing and we still have one system and we still have 40 players and the game still plays like absolute dog shit and Squadron 42 still isn't out, then yeah, there's a problem. But we're not there yet, and it's probably too early to tell. Do I think it'll be the best game of all time ever released? Not really. I think it'll be a fun game. Glad to see you're back. How are the folks? They're doing all right. They're doing their retirement best. Oh yeah, the first server meshing patch is gonna make 3.0 look like it was good times. You think it's going to be the best game ever released? I don't know. I mean, it really depends on your perspective. I bet 100 years from now there'll be a better game, probably. Yeah, it's gonna make 3.0 look like 2.6. Just going through some stuff real quickly. Best space poopin' sim. You know it. I think if it works, yes, it'll be the best damn space game ever released. I'm writing an article that Chris also comes to my house and beats my dog. If that's the internet people will believe. I have total faith in Star Citizen, and that will be the greatest MMO ever, as long as Chris is at the helm. Star Citizen could solve their problems if they reduce things like geometry count and LOD quality, since half the player base is constantly stuck in elevators and falling through the floor. Hey there, first time catching the stream. Glad I can make it. Thank you for coming there, Lieutenant Lucky. But Steve, I share the concern, but I'm almost as certain it's going to happen. The first version. It's just the way those things work. I think actually more likely what's going to happen is the first version, and this is my theory, my prediction, as it were, that the first version of server meshing will essentially be something like the first version of client side OCS. It'll be like the first version of OCS. The frames will go through the roof. Performance will absolutely skyrocket. Everything will be gold. Everyone's getting blowjobs and puppies. It's amazing. And then the patch after that, it will turn into a dumpster fire of hate and anger. Think that's probably what's going to happen, because CIG tends to work that way, where they just really want to make sure everything works properly and they get the systems in and working well and connected, and everything's doing what it's supposed to do. And then they're like, cool, that's done. Let's drive a Mack truck over it and see what breaks. It's kind of how development works in general, how engineering works in general. You build the system, you make sure it's working properly, and then you beat it with a sledgehammer until you find the weak points. It's absolutely how it goes with Star Citizen. Anyone who's seen you'll see this in terms of the patches. You'll see that some patches that CIG release, like the performance is and everything seems to be much better. Desync is down. Performance, playability is way up. 3.8 was like that. 3.8, I think it was 3.8. It may have been 3.7. The fall patch of last year was just magnifico. 3.3 was like that before that, which was just absolutely fantastic in terms of performance. And then they add a patch where they add a bunch of new stuff because they worked on kind of back-end performance, and then everything goes to shit again. So. Conda, thanks for giving that thing to execute. But in the long run, that Mack truck brings up the unknowns, which can be changed and completely fixed. Let's talk a little bit about Theaters of War, speaking of Mack trucks. Well, before that, will we ever be able to play as an alien race character? That's one of the ideas when the game's fully out, is to be able to play as an alien. My theory on that matter is that it'll be a paid DLC. And it'll be in the same universe, so it's not like it's like the experience is locked behind, but you'll get certain reputation buffs and certain access to certain quests that you wouldn't get if you were playing as a human. And my guess is that the first version of that DLC would be the Tavaran characters. And then if they got that working and worked well, then they would release like Banu and Xi'an characters. I don't think they'd ever make a Vanduul character option unless there was some sort of grand epic scope story where the Xi'an or the Vanduul have to fight alongside humans against a larger enemy, which could happen, but that kind of stuff. As someone asked whether your students play Star Citizen, what age group do you teach? High school? Teens, mostly. Between 16 and 18. And it's not that my students don't necessarily play Star Citizen. It's that they tend to be of the persuasion of playing more popular titles. It's not that they couldn't find Star Citizen. It's just that we are a tiny community in comparison. When Star Citizen is released or is in a more popular or stable state, I would start to worry about it, but not right now. I demand Burb character. Captain Burb commands the mighty Idris. Caw. Well, the reason why I would say that if they did a DLC with alien characters, they would start off with the Tavaran is because the Tavaran are humans. I don't mean they're actually humans, but Tavaran work in human society. They're part of the UEE, so it wouldn't be too difficult. Essentially, you would be like a Tavaran skin, is what it would be like. So, and you probably would have different reputation bonuses or different reputation issues, but let's talk a little bit about Theaters of War, talking about like how CIG tests things. So one of the things about Theaters of War was that there was a test. I didn't play in it. I was with my parents this entire time, so I saw a bunch of the reactions to it, and they only did it for one day, and people were like, "Oh, the performance was garbage," or "The performance was great." And a lot of people are, again, doing the doom and gloom, like, oh no, everything's on fire. Theaters of War took a year since the last test, and everything still sucks. It's going to be terrible. It's like, that's kind of how it works. The thing that it's important to always keep in context is, where is Squadron 42? Where is Theaters of War? Well, where's Star Citizen? If Star Citizen's performance sucks, has terrible desync, and nobody likes playing it, then both Theaters of War and Squadron 42 have the same issues. Theaters of War probably a lot more marked than Squadron 42, simply because Theaters of War is an online game. Where Star Citizen is where everything else is in terms of development. But they would already have a Xi'an model, so would get them first. They probably wouldn't do that, only because they also have a Vanduul model. But the Xi'an model, the Vanduul model, Tavaran models, and Banu models are going to be done probably close together. And the problem about doing the Xi'an model is that you would have to then also do Xi'an reputation, Xi'an be able to control ships with Xi'an characters, which are different sizes from humans and Tavarans. Tavarans and humans are about the same size. And most human ships are designed to use Tavaran pilots as much as human pilots because they've been developed since the Tavaran War. So a lot of Tavaran end up fighting in the UEE, fighting for the UEE against rebels and, the Xi'an, the Vanduul and such. Not the Xi'an yet, but so they're about the same space. Xi'an are different. They have a different body structure, so they'd have to set up a different kind of mode for the ship's seats themselves. Same with the Banu. So. And they're different sizes in terms of heights, different body structures. So they would need to go back and redesign the seats, which is a pain in the ass. So they need to have some sort of way of making the seats adjustable based off of character height, which is something they actually talked about in the past, but that would take some time. So the new Xi'an fighter is way undergunned. The Santuk Yai, it's like 4 size 3s. It's the same gun as the gunfighter as a Saber. Originally, I don't think we'll ever see alien races as playable characters just because of the character models being fitted exactly to the ship's seats, controls, armor, and clothing. Yeah. Tavaran are close enough to make it work if you're a tall Tavaran. Yeah. I really want to see the Tavaran because they're part of the UEE, and I want to see them walk around the PU. Yeah. That's why the bubble is huge in the cartoon wall. Yeah. But the Korthol is built with humans in mind, like, and in the sense that that's the lore, but in terms of the gameplay, they have a specific skeletal rig that all characters have, and the seats are set up for those rigs, so that you have the right view of the screen and all of the components and everything else like that. So, would it be cool an all-out war like Alliance and Horde in WoW would be viable in Star Citizen, like Devarn, Xi'an, Vanduul, humans, and the story would progress as diplomacies, wars, players driven. I know that's so far-fetched, but man, dream. That's kind of what's planned. Let's talk a little bit about reputation, and so we can understand a little bit more. I'm going to probably do a full video kind of breakdown for people to understand how reputation is going to work, but this latest ISC really does cement what I've been saying for a long time. Reputation is the second currency in Star Citizen. Everyone's going to be talking about credits, but your rep is going to matter more than your credits. Reputation is going to determine what kind of money you can get and where you can land, where you can do business, who you can do business with, how you can do business with those people. I love the joke that you can do you can have reputation with a table. Now I need a table. CIG, I need a table character quest giver. Where is the table quest giver? Table Chan. Can we get Table Chan, please? And I have a serious question. Is Table Chan another goddamn gray zone or evil person? Because we're done with these evil quest givers. Give us a hero. Table Chan who works for Table Security. Okay? I've not done a vid on the Korthol or on the Cathok. The reason why is just because there's not enough information on them. We don't know anything about them, both in lore and in reality. I'm all for this Table Chan. Commander Table. And here's the thing, and the thing to remember is that the lore is, the way that the lore is going to matter is in reputation. It will always be like that, because reputation is variable. So if you're doing missions with Hurston Security, then any allies or positive influencers with Hurston, like Hurston Security, Crusader Security, the UEE, the doing work for Hurston Security will probably boost your reputation with those other ones as well, or at least leave them neutral. But the People's Alliance of Levski may not like you anymore because you're working to oppress the people, which means you may not be able to even land at Levski, in the long term. Now, Levski's not in Stanton, but just to use an example, the ex-Malo Bonum folks, or even Tisa Pacheco, or Wallace Klim. These are criminal mission givers who, if you're working for security, you're going to have negative reputation with them. They'll either not talk with you or they'll have you killed. They'll send you away. So this system is going to be in place so that if you fuck up and take the wrong missions, you will fuck up and not be able to take other missions that you want to take because you just saw the money and didn't see who was giving it to you. This isn't something that's like some pie in the sky crazy idea. This is Freelancer. This was done in Freelancer 20 years ago. So it's definitely something that's existed in Star Citizen in Chris Roberts games in the past. And since Star Citizen is essentially Freelancer 2 electric on steroids, Boogaloo, Star Citizen is going to have that in spades. And because they have the system as fine-tuned as it can be, as they have it right now, it's going to be nuts to try to track a lot of the stuff. How do we play the double agent? You take the mission to be a double agent for another group. Time frame on the pie patch? July. Nice to see Galactic Historian back at the captain's table. I have these images there so people know what I do. I should probably just remove them right now and just leave it as office hours. Rust Society, man, one of my favorite NPC factions. Want to see us CIG plans on implementing them. I'd love to see them put the Rust Society in Star Citizen in this year. It's a really cool idea, and it would make sense in terms of a mission giver. Does Crusader still have kind of Batman vibe? Where they're yes, 100%. Don't even have to read the rest. They're rich people who give to the poor. They're more like a Robin Hood meets Batman. It's like if Bruce Wayne beat up Lex Luthor and took his money and gave it to took Lex Luthor's money and gave it to the poor, but also his own money. I agree. We need good people for rep, table, and cash. A pair of police. Table and cash. table and futon. I need a table flipper mode. Exactly, and that's the reason why they're developing this UI, is because it's going to get really crazy. And don't worry, I'm here. So if you need to know who not to piss off, I've done the research for you. And I'll have a video to let you know exactly who not to piss off. Do I prefer player-driven systems or CIG-driven like D&D? I mean, it depends on what you're asking. For economy, I prefer a mixture of the two with more of a GM feel. I don't mind I like the openness of CIG's system of like having the system be dynamic and be reactive to the players. I don't like a fully player-controlled situation with things like the economy and missions, simply because then you have Rust in space. And while I love Rust, I didn't sign up for Rust in space. Pico is the next hero quest giver, yes. Would it be so cool? Oh, yeah, think of that. I wouldn't be surprised, Aeon Ruby, if you have these massive story progressions because of, like I said, reputation. Working for the right team of people might give you that massive, influential, world-changing events. You might take a mission from a quest giver that ends up being you assassinating a Xi'an ambassador and causing a war to break out, or a massive interstellar incident. Or you could save a Xi'an ambassador from using a quest giver or from specific quests. That could then help prevent that, or aid or subtract against some sort of factions who are secretly going to war with one another inside the UEE. Those sorts of things. What's that, Pico? You want me to kill the Imperator? Well, you're paying well, so. Do you think that devs will be adding more star systems, maybe even species after Star Citizen release? For sure. Once they have an idea of how to make the systems, it's just tools. Rust was like 6 years after Star Citizen. I agree, but it happened after. Rust was 6 years after Star Citizen? I thought it was 2012. Look it up. (2013), 1 year after Star Citizen. And I signed up for Star Citizen about that same year, so. Yeah, I guess it was a little bit later, but yeah. I'm really enjoying the mining UI. Yeah, it's really good. The coffee cup in the woods is sentient. I really hope we can earn rep with the advocacy of military. Just want to join the crusades against the Vanduul. Yeah, you can. Luckily, that is because block UI is finally done, so many people can edit it easily and quickly fix things. Yeah, I think they're still trying to grasp it, which is why they haven't got a ton of stuff done, but they're definitely working on it. Flash can burn hell. Flash is dead. Long may it burn in hell. Flash is the bane of anybody who's ever tried to learn how to develop anything on the internet. We'll probably have a fun character restart as I was missing items. Oh, damn. I don't know why... There we go. I don't know why it says it. I just hope that the reputation won't be to black and white, and be able to achieve the gray area, like bounty hunting more sneaky and not lose rep with another faction. I don't know. I think it'll depend on two things. One is your reputation in terms of what you do, and two, if you get caught. Going off and assassinating somebody from another faction won't matter if you don't get caught. Because CIG can track those things. Who sees you doing things? Friends in games will need to coordinate their rep direction if they want to take missions together, unless CIG plans to have exceptions like missions that can be shared by party lead. That's the plan. In fact, this next patch is the first edition of missions that can be shared by party lead. Now, your reputation, who you hang out with, will also have an impact on your reputation with other factions as well. I don't know how well they're going to be able to do that, but I think there's going to be probably some just proximity issues. So, hopefully they fix the prison system. It's such hot garbage. It's better than it used to be, but yeah. Really, like I've said before, the prison system was designed for Pyro. It wasn't designed when you just have Stanton. It was designed so that when Pyro comes in, no pirate wants to remain in Stanton. They'll just go to Pyro, because that's where they can just kill people without any consequences. Wait, party-only missions? Some missions are already party-only. You can, if a party leader has the mission, they can share it with everybody else. And there's some places where only one person can get that mission, and then they can share it with everybody else. Flash games from your childhood. Have you ever tried to develop with Flash? It's a nightmare. They're already working on Nyx. They are. The new team is, yeah. Having good mission givers combined with reputation system is the best way I can see for players to be able to afford to use capital ships in the game. You will need access to UE naval resources. That's going to happen. You're going to be able to gain reputation with the UE Navy, the UE Army, the UE Marines, the Advocacy, the UE Government. Tons of different factions you'll be able to do with. I hate that almost about all of the Seeing Eye and Star Citizen, the All-Seeing Eye and Star Citizen. I remember looting ships in Ultima way back. That's actually planned on going away. That's something that they specifically mentioned, I think, 2 weeks ago in an ISC, or was it an SCL? I can't remember. Where they said that they hate the idea of having omniscient systems, where, like, if you're in an area, no matter what, you're going to get caught. They prefer a system where you get caught if someone sees you, and there are ways you can avoid it, or if you happen to be in the wrong area, instead of immediately giving you a warning, then a crime stat, they tell you to leave or they arrest you, which is something they're working on. But I used to make a metric ton of slash banners, and I'm so glad it's not a thing anymore. Flash banners, yeah. I know Pyro, Nyx, and Mystery Systems are in the works. Yes. We know that the new team is planet design stuff, and we have seen them do some sick lightning stuff almost already. We also have seen them do an entire landing zone. They showed it off a couple of weeks ago, but they showed off a landing zone in the old Javelin on Daymar. They turned that into a landing zone for kind of outlaws and pirates as a test bed for learning the systems. They built that in the last part of 2020, and we know this for two reasons. One, the lore team retconned what that Javelin was, in terms of giving it a name, the UES Flysa. And they also said that at the end of that story that it has been a place where pirates are known to gather, or outlaws are known to gather, which was released in the last jump point in December of 2020, for December 2020 jump point, which means that they had built or were building that system and wanted to put it into game earlier than that. And that tells me that they've been working on that system probably for multiple months. If I'm going to venture a guess, since July or June of last year. So that team has been working on stuff for a while. Just they haven't talked about it. That's the thing with like Theaters of War. They announced that there's this team that's working on Theaters of War, but in reality they've been working on Theaters of War since 2019. And CIG hadn't publicly announced it yet, but there have been, according to Board Gamer, who pays way more attention to the game than I do, he said that there were sources all the way back to 2019 with those that this company had been working with, and the CIG hadn't talked about it. So. I can't imagine how our solar system and Earth will be made. I'm sure it'll be on scale 1-to-1. It can't be on... No, it's not going to be on 1-to-1. It's going to be the same scale as Stanton is. I'm really looking forward to seeing how they pull it off. It's not going to be super realistic. Yeah, but Kerbal is not a... Kerbal is not a... Kerbal is not as minuscule as Star Citizen is. It doesn't go as microcosm as Star Citizen does. Like, in the Star Citizen universe, you should be able to see, like, New York, Beijing, Moscow, London. And unlike Terra, which you have no reference to, you do know what Moscow, New York, Beijing, and London look like. So if it doesn't look like those cities, people are going to be pissed. You don't have those cities in Kerbal Space Program. You just have the bigger versions. Holy shit, what is you go on Board Gamer and call him fake news? I didn't call him fake news. I said he pays more attention than I do. Those are community made audio. I'm not going to call him fake news. Why? He calls him like... Board Gamer's a good dude. He's a good man. Good people. Kerbal is 8 times smaller than our actual solar system. Yeah, and Star Citizen's universe is actually scaled down as well to... The planets are like 1/16 the size that there should be, and moons are 1/4 the size they should be. That still makes them absolutely fucking massive in terms of video game scale, but... Yeah, moons are 1/4. I think planets are actually smaller. I was surprised it was a military jab and not some civilian idiot. You know what they looked like? They looked like not look like. What do you mean? Oh yeah, we look like 1/4, I think. Oh, it's Jake. Hi, Jake. Hashtag blame Jake. Mm-hmm. I'd imagine that even the Soul is not going to be 60 AU. Because at current speeds, 60 AU is bonkers. You complain about 20-minute jumps? You prepared for 14-hour jumps? They're going to have to do something about the scaling of the systems as well. I imagine that you're probably going to have downscaled systems just for travel purposes. Any faster QT speeds, you're breaking the speed of light. It's actually faster than that, but in lore, it's 20%. They'll probably likely do is just scale down the systems so that they're not to the RL scales, and they'll probably make them more, game scale-y. So. Wormholes do exist. Star Citizen has the jump points that exist in Star Citizen. So for those who don't know how Star Citizen works kind of like a room system. You have a system is a room, and then each system connecting to each system is connected to other systems through jump points, which are essentially wormholes. You can travel through those wormholes, and you enter into another room, which is another solar system. In theory, there is no limit to the map. There is no point where you just reach the end of the map and it goes, turn around, you cannot go for any further. In theory, someone could just fly off into infinity and go forever, travel in the general direction of the nearest star, and keep flying. But we don't know how realistic that'll be. At the very least, we know that each system is going to be self-contained, and the only way to go to another system is to go through a jump point. The way you travel inter-system is through a quantum drive, which is something that allows you to go a significant percentage the speed of light. It's warp drive. A quantum drive is essentially a warp drive. It folds space in front of you and stretches spaces behind you. So. You know what Moscow looks like now, but it doesn't look like in 1,000 years from now. Yeah, but you're still going to always have people who say that's not Moscow because it doesn't look proper. Like the landscape doesn't look right, or the buildings don't look right, even if it's 1,000 years from now. The issue is more trying to make the system look recognizable as possible, while also looking like there's been change. Do you think that Mars will be terraformed in Star Citizen? It is terraformed in Star Citizen. Wormholes are like hallways, some bigger than others, yeah. I just had a thought. Do you think that they will let you slow travel to separate systems for game purposes? They will in some way stop players from the system's edge? The original plan was to never stop players at system's edges, to let them just continue to slow travel. You'll never reach... Even at the fastest quantum speeds, you'll never reach another star system in your lifetime. Like, not like your lifetime as in your player's lifetime. I mean, like in your lifetime. In-game, it would take years, decades, to actually travel from one system to another, even the closest systems that are closest together. Because we're talking light years. Massive, massive numbers of light years. But we don't know, because like Elite Dangerous has this thing where you have a system edge when it turns you around, you can't keep going. So you don't have unlimited space, just borders that are not pragmatic to reach. Possibly. I mean, you could. The thing about how Star Citizen's being developed is, in theory, with dynamic server meshing, if you keep going in a direction, all that you're going to do is have a server spin up in front of you, and that server will then just continue to be infinitesimally large forever. Because when you're in a server that has nothing but space, because you're literally between you leave the server of the last server of the system, and now you're entering interplanetary or interstellar space, there's nothing. They won't have to render dust particles and asteroids and planets, and they won't, because there's nothing out there, because they don't want to make any gameplay for that, unless they do, and then they'll give you a reason to. In theory, you could have an infinitely large void that's running on a server, because it's loading nothing but your ship. There's no stress on the server, so you could just keep going, and it really doesn't do anything in terms of stopping you. Now, that's in theory. That's also a huge waste of resources if you just have a server, because some dumbass is going to hop into their freelancer, turn on quantum drive, and go as far as they can. They'll eventually run out of fuel and just die. But, Where can I find the readable copy of the lore of Star Citizen? The website. And it's not where you think it is. There is no big Bible of Star Citizen that says, here is the dictionary of Star Citizen from A to Z. Or like a textbook that's like the history and lore of Star Citizen. There's no lore tome. The lore is made up of a bunch of different small things, like the writers, it's like writer's guide. I think it's what it's called, the writer's guide, which is old, but it has some basic information that goes up to like 20 or 30. Plus you have the Spectrum dispatches, which are the various news sources, stories, profiles, history, recaps of various events. It is not easy. It is a really complicated lore piece, which is more of a jigsaw puzzle than it is a coherent narrative at this point. You can also look at the Lore Maker's Guides, but that only really covers specific systems. That's not designed as a comprehensive, like A to B kind of like, in the beginning, there was this, and now we're here. It doesn't do that. It kind of jumps around all over the place depending on what you're looking at. So I do believe that CIG, or the writers team, has a general outline of what the lore looks like. Has a timeline, has slotted in things here and there for those timelines. Why am I blanking on her name? Sherry Heidelberg. She's the archivist for Star Citizen. Her job is to take all of the mess that is the lore of Star Citizen and make it into a coherent, like, archive of where things are. She's the one who's in charge of Galactipedia. So if you're looking for a start to look at how the lore works, go to Galactipedia, go to the Galactipedia, go to Star Citizen, go to Robert Space Industries, and then at the very top where it says apps, one of the options is Galactipedia, and you can go through and just kind of like, it's like a Wikipedia stuff. You can look through small snippets. Then I'd go to the Lore Maker's Guide to the Galaxy, watch all those videos, and if you want to read, go through the Spectrum dispatches on the website. For sure, CIG can do that if they want. It wouldn't tax CIG servers because the only you doing math on X number of kilometers of space. Yeah. Can't wait for things like server meshing and iCache becoming function to the point where games like take advantage of the tech. We'll probably see that in the next couple of patches for iCache, at least, it seems like. How is Sherry, Jake? I'm sure you've talked with her. So still, you eventually just die in the black, yeah. One of my thoughts on the reputation system they revealed. They seemed to promise a bit, overpromise a bit, making systems to detect your clothing and whether or not your character likes it, how cool your flying is and whatnot. Sounds like a bit much. Gorham, it's actually not that complicated. It's simply an if-then answer. It's a very simple logic gate, as it were. Yes, no. You just have a system. You can just set a system of parameters of styles of clothing that this character will be interested in, and other styles they're not, likes, dislikes. And for mission givers, that's pretty simple. You're going to already program that in, so you can probably have those parameters you can put in easily. And then having like the way you fly can matter. That is more like how well do you fly? What do you do? What kind of risks do you take? Those are all programmable. I don't think it's a bit much. I think it's plausible, and I think but I also don't think it's going to happen in 3.13, and they even said that it's going to be down the line. And it's more like you got to think of it more like this: if you're going to Constantine Hurston in the Hurston Dynamics building, and you rock up looking like you're about to raid like you're about to fight an army, full heavy armor, massive light machine gun on your back, bristling with ammunition and grenades, and you're like, I'm here for the mission. I don't think Hurston's gonna really like you. Wait, what? You're in the Hurston Dynamics building. You don't need to look like you're raiding Fort Knox. Get the fuck out of here. But if you rock up in like a suit and a tie, and you go, hello, I'm here for the mission, then the character will be like, oh, yeah, you're looking snappy. I like that. It's not too different from, say, if your character hasn't taken a bath or a shower, you have a smell meter, and then other characters will react to you depending on that kind of stuff. Yeah, put some damn pants on. It's really not that difficult. There's systems like that have been in place for games, for RPGs forever. So the helmet stays on, Paul. Did Sandy announce her return on the official role at CIG? She seems to have. She was at least... Sandy's been more active on Twitter. As of today or yesterday, she mentioned that she's in charge of a board meeting for CIG. So I don't know. I knew the clothes would be useful. Yeah, social. You'll for social self. Yeah. How do you think CIG will handle problem like self-defense with the law system? Example, killing an intruder in a ship and not getting crime stats. If an intruder is in a ship and you kill them and you did not give them permission to be on that ship, then all of the ship systems should say that this person was not registered to be on the ship and they got on the ship. There's always going to be gray zones, wiggle room, like luring somebody on the ship so you can shoot them. You don't have a rep. But I mean, Skyrim did this in a fairly simple way with NPCs' comments about the diseases and such. Yeah, it's a simple if-then logic gate sort of situation. Very basic scripting. It gets complicated because you also have like, at what percentage point of your clothing does Constantine Hurston like you? And people will do code diving, realize you don't need to wear pants with Constantine Hurston, so you just need to wear a nice suit and then you have armored pants on. And he's just like, cool, that's whatever. But that also kind of makes everything a little bit more unique. You could have a mission giver that will only talk to you if you go pantsless because they hate pants. And they may comment like, I like the fact you're not wearing any bottoms. I like you. You know, those kind of interesting things. Would love a permission to board function. That's planned. Sandy left for a while. It's more that she went dark. Her and Chris were very quiet in terms of their roles in Star Citizen. But Sandy's been posting on Twitter recently, which is good. I wear a suit because I'm a legitimate security manager. Exactly. I wear a suit without pants. Fallout 76 does the same BOS comment on you if you have mutations and advise you to have them cured. Yeah. Looking snappy. That suit will come handy when you're facing down 20 mercs. Hey, I'm not saying he's smart. I'm just saying he's a picky man. Constantine Hurston. Get naked or get fired. Morrowind House Hailu sponsor. Yeah. I want Hawaiian shirts. Damn it. Damn straight. If so long as Tyler Whitkin works at CIG, I have 100% faith that CIG will put in a Hawaiian shirt and flip-flops. Wear the Svaran armor and bring honor to your ancestors. Yeah. I can see where people get concerned that it's like, oh, it's overpromising. But knowing as much as I have about how games work and I'll say I don't know a lot of the technical details, but in theory, the concept isn't too difficult in the sense that it has been done before. It's not a new idea. And based off of what they talked about, they have full range to address reputation with anything that has a registrable entity in the game, which means it's also a sneaky way of saying, by the way, they have the backend for iCache working, because they have to have everything with its own registered log in the backend so that you can log it and save progress with it. You don't have that unless you have a backend that has all this information. We've known they haven't backended for a while, Pcache, but it's getting better. It has nothing to do with physics or effects, just tags and databases. Yeah, it's pretty much it is. It's some of the most, like you could create, and I think they did create systems like this for like text-based games. Early text-based games had these kind of systems. I only have one ship that's one max crew, and is this a problem that I don't have any interest in owning larger ships? Not at all. Small ships are fine. You'll have plenty of jobs to do as a smaller ship. Just don't expect I wouldn't expect to be able to do some more complicated things unless you're working with other people or working on a larger ship. Do I think Star Citizen devs will change the look of the wormholes once traveling through it, or will we have to see as the old demo final? They'll probably tweak it, but I think the general idea of the organic feel is probably going to be here to stay. They'll probably have some stuff, though. A bit out of bounds, and I know there's drama between the communities, but did you catch the Odyssey trailer? Glad to see ED improving. Just a heads up, I'm an ED beta backer. I used to stream the crap out of Elite Dangerous. I'm planning on streaming Elite Dangerous when we get closer to Odyssey to get back in, because I haven't played in 5 years. And I'll play when Odyssey comes in. So if you guys want to watch it, you can come and enjoy us. Enjoy it. I don't think there's drama between the communities. I think there's drama between drama queens in both communities. It's kind of like Eve. Eve does not interest me. But I know plenty of people who are in Star Citizen who are avid Eve players, who have played it or just have lost that ran out of time, or still do play it, and then are interested in Star Citizen. You tend to find that people who enjoy space sims and space games will go play space games. Not sure if this is already talked about, but do you think the stuff like the Hercules and the Tonk are intentionally held back for release during the Invictus? No. I think they're being held back because they're not done. Yeah, Drama Queens or whoever, the same. I just started playing ED last week. ED's a fantastic game, and the stuff they've added since I've been gone is made the game a lot better, I think, in the overall phase. So I was a Kickstarter backer with a lifetime pass. Got bored waiting for them to add space legs. Odyssey's coming out, yes, but you still can't walk around the ships. I think Odyssey's going to be an interesting addition, but I also don't think it's going to be the shot on the arm that everyone thinks it is. You'll have people running around screaming like, oh, Elite is killing Star Citizen because it has space legs now, just like Star Citizen. And the problem is that I feel like the legs are going to be like carriers in Elite Dangerous. For those who don't know about carriers are just like big, expensive landing zones. They cost a lot of money, they require a lot of effort to do, and they don't really give you a huge advantage. I feel like what's going to happen is there's going to be a handful of copy-pasted assets with Elite, which will, for ground-based stuff, which will run through its novelty pretty quickly. If you've played games like X4 or Rebel Galaxy, I feel like you're probably going to have stuff like that, where the station stuff is going to be interesting, but it's going to be mostly samey. The ground-based missions and like kind of combat stuff is going to be mostly samey. You won't really have a lot of in-depth walk around your ship in gameplay on the ship in terms of like walking around and fixing things, because in the Elite Dangerous universe, there is no artificial gravity. So you'd be floating around the ship, and that's a little bit complicated to manage unless you had like mag boots, I guess, but what I really hope for what Elite Dangerous does is after Odyssey is end the game. Maybe still do some support stuff, but then start development on Elite Dangerous 2 or Elite Fierce, whatever they want to call the next sequel. And then take everything they learned with Elite Dangerous and build from the ground up with space legs, with combat, with traversable ground bases and missions, with stations that can be traversed. All of these things in mind. And then build so you don't have the limitations from the beginning. So you have all of this stuff to start with. Because it's been like 5 years since the game's been out. That's a fairly healthy like rotation cycle for a game. You did. Sorry. It was more of those things, because my point is that I've played Elite Dangerous a lot. And my problem with Elite Dangerous stems from the fact that I'm a lore guy, and there's extensive Elite Dangerous lore, massive amounts of it, but they don't use it. They don't really make lore interesting. You know, the Federation and the Empire are going to war with one another, and all of the systems along the border is just chaos. You're getting pulled out of hyperdrive and scanned down by different factions. The commodity prices for foodstuffs and medical supplies in the border skyrocket. So you have to go to these different stations and deliver the medical supplies. And all the time you're being pulled out of hyperdrive and attacked by various factions as you're going to war. Like, make it feel like a conflict. Like the universe is at war. That would be cool. But that takes effort. And it's not necessarily a good selling point. So, especially if you don't know the lore. But I feel like they failed on that one. But, you know. That's been my biggest issue. So. But I'm looking forward to it. I will play it, and I'll show it off to you guys. There aren't really story missions. They're really open-ended and self-driven, which is fine, but there's really no long-term impact. The things that they do really well for immersion are things like following Galnet like broadcasts about various individuals in the various different factions and their ongoing drama. The issue with that is that it's all passive and not active. A great example of the opposite is Xenothreat. Well, it's still an early version. The Xenothreat missions basically spelled out two things. First off, they use background lore as a way of defining the active game. You don't need to know what the Huxaw Treaty is, but you know that the Xenothreat guys mentioned it. So if they mentioned the Huxaw Treaty, you know that's a thing. That may come up again. But if you understand the background behind what Huxaw is, you may have a better understanding of why these things are happening, and possibly in the future, ways of dealing with the threat or aiding with the Xenothreat in their own ways. How to talk with them in terms of individual conversation trees, how to get better reputation with them because you understand the background of what Huxaw is. Thus getting you better reputation, thus getting you a better chance of getting that money. That is an example of using the passive background lore to active benefit for you. But that requires you to pay attention to what the lore is telling you and to have some reputation, some bonuses for you to do that. Those are kind of the ideas that were set forth. And we already see some of that being put into place with things like Xenothreat. You don't really have anything like a Xenothreat mission in Elite. You have events that take place like the aliens came back and players to deal with it, but it was just players having to fight the aliens. You didn't have any reaction from the Federation or the Empire or the Alliance. So Dark Lord invasions, yeah. Hey, Star Jump. So that's bringing this back to Star Citizen. That's how the reputation system is going to start mattering. If you're talking to somebody in Xenothreat, don't fucking talk about how you like aliens in any way, shape, or form, because they're going to just cut the conversation off and or kill you. So if you have a conversation with them for some purposes of getting jobs, you know how to talk to them, because that way you don't get shot or you get the job you're looking for. Don't show up in your Xi'an ship, yeah. The reaction from factions was all in written lore. It was written lore, but it wasn't active lore. It was all, like I said, it was passive background lore, not in the game. I don't doubt it. I have a theory about the Xenothreat. Pyro connects to Virgil. Xeno coming to Stanton was their first cry for help because the Vanduul are coming in. That could definitely happen. So don't go to Xenothreat as a Commander Bird. Got it. Exactly. You'll be murdered. Just out to have a good time. Nah, Xenothreats like cuddly guys. They're absolutely cuddly. They're cute and cuddly. Open fire. Got it. Senor Titty Sprinkles. I didn't even see you come in. Welcome, Senor Titty Sprinkles. I love the name. I absolutely fucking love that name. They mentioned new reputation system being able to observe what decal your ship is wearing to determine affinity. I wonder if that's how they'll let you choose sides with a 9KL lockdown. Probably. I mean, the reputation system, the way that they build it, is fairly robust. It's definitely going to be something that you can use. They'll be able to use for many different options. And again, another example to mention is that the reputation system isn't that complex compared to what Freelancer's reputation system was. You know, depending on who you worked for in what factions with Freelancer determined how you would be treated by other factions. And this was Freelancer, which was 20 years ago. Done by by Chris Roberts. So. Is the reason we can only get a handful of new features and additions each quarter mostly because of priority of Squadron 42, or is it because tech reasons? the amount of content and features we get each step, it feels like it'll be 7 or 6 years before we hit beta. Both. Squadron 42 takes up a lot of the reasons, but also tech. A lot of stuff is behind, is waiting for things like iCache, which is persistent streaming, and server meshing. Now, the upside, the good thing is that server meshing and persistent streaming seems to be making headway, if not getting their first iterations this year. Could not happen. It could just be some stuff in the background, but this year seems to be a lot of that if you look at the progress tracker. That they're definitely working on that or focusing on that right now. Problem about that is they've pretty much reached the peak amount of stuff they can add into the game without the game eating itself alive. However, if you look at how they're planning on making the game this year in terms of what they're adding with each patch, it looks like they plan on having those features fixed by the mid of this year / end of this year. So a lot of new features that are coming in are going to be a lot more resource heavy. And they also plan on doing things like events like the Xenothreat event, while also adding in the Crusader Landing Zone, which adds... They wouldn't be able to do that if they had to take out some stuff. So, yes, Gin Tonic, everything significantly gated by server iCache and server meshing. Your ship marked with your cargo, your org logo, so your ship gets benefits from your org in that area. That could happen as well. Yeah. Ninetales Lockdown might be a cool event to bring the Kraken out if the Ares would actually have something to appropriate to attack. Could be. So, question about that R1 is the Kraken used by the Ninetales in lore. I heard that the Kraken was used by some gang in lore, but I could definitely be wrong. The Kraken's used by a lot of people. I'm sure it's used by some gangs. I don't know exactly which gang it would be used by in lore. I really think the Quantum Backed is going to be super dependent on reputation for determining NPC actions when it goes live. Yeah, the Quantum Backend is definitely going to be heavily using reputation as part of that. If your org is good with the Ninetales, any ship with your logo is let in. Kind of, yeah. I don't know if it says logo. I think it's just your reputation. Do you think we might see an event that was mentioned to supply expos with food and booze for ILW? Invictus Long Streak 2951? We could. I don't know if we will, though. It's going to feel amazing once we get Pyro and then jump points in general. Then it'll feel like the ultimate game. I mean, I still think we're 2 years away from the game reaching a point where it's going to feel more like a game. But in the meantime, we're still going to get stuff that's updated. Once iCache and the first versions of persistent server streamings, whatever it's called, come into play, you're going to see a very big change in terms of stability. So the 30Ks will be gone. They will be gone, but they won't hurt as much. And you'll start to see a little bit more in terms of reputation. You'll start to see a little bit more like server performance. And just better performance is probably going to be a bigger draw, where you can, the ships won't be glitching out everywhere. Then you add in things like server meshing. Now you have increased player caps. You have multiple areas where ships can fly between different servers. So you have more numbers of people. You have probably dynamic server meshing or static server meshing. And my guess is that they'll have static server meshing for specific regions. So like the US will have its own statically meshed server bank. And the EU will have its own statically meshed server bank. And the OS servers, the Oceania servers, will have their own statically meshed server bank. Now, they'll all share the same data server, but the actual simulation servers are all going to be based off of region. And then eventually, when they get dynamic server meshing, they'll take all of those issues and just into one. So you just have one big servers. Once you have server meshing, you will have cap ships. Well, it's Drake, so pirates. Probably. Kraken's probably going to come in if you have Kraken will probably be in the hands of pirates if it comes into the game, simply because Drake. All right, y'all. We've been streaming for 2 hours. Thank you for coming on and talking with us about various things like server meshing, iCache, the lore, the newest lore releases from the Xi'an, from lots of other things. You guys rock. I love your faces. If you enjoyed this and you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, comment down below if you want to add to the conversation. For those of you who have been hanging out with us live, !March in chat to get this month's giveaway. I'm going to put this into the chat here for you in right there. There's the link. I put it in chat for those of you in YouTube. Don't do ! If you're in YouTube. It won't bring anything up. Just click that link and it'll take you to the page. All you have to be doing is subscribe to us on YouTube and following us on Twitch. Both are absolutely free. So please do check it out. All right. Like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black. And remember, ex Historia ad Astra.